This is Writing Doctor. This episode is Lead Writing, Prescription for Healthy Beginnings. Always good to start your story with a nice, solid lead so the reader will keep reading. Some basic advice. Select the most important elements. You can't put everything in the lead. All the information will not fit. You'll have a whole story coming, which you can place other information. Consider sticking to this formula. Who did what, when, and where? Usually you'll be able to get that much into the first sentence or the first two sentences, whatever your lead is. Remember, again, there's going to be a story below and you're going to need things to put in that story. Let's look at this lead as an example. This is from Reuters News Service, a lead on a recent story about hunting wolves in Michigan. And you can see here who did what and when. Michigan Natural Resources Commission on Thursday approved hunting of protected wolves. So look, graphs 2 to 4, a lot more information. A lot of interesting information in here that obviously the writer couldn't get into the lead, but it works here in these 3 graphs. The third graph could use, by the way, a source. That would be nice. And here's the 5th graph, the nut graph. We've talked about this a little bit. This is the paragraph that tells the reader why this is important to them. What does it mean to me? It means that maybe, according to the source, the DNR wildlife expert, wolves might be more wary of me, which is a good thing. 5 points. Don't begin with a date or time unless it's somehow significant. You can slip it in later in the sentence. Don't use numerals to begin sentences. If you have to use them, spell them out. Better to rewrite the sentence. Use subject, verb, object. Makes a nice, clean, simple sentence. Move the attributions to the end. And use AP style. Page 57 of Harrower has a great summary of basic AP style rules that you'll need to start applying to your writing in this class. Let's look at this lead from the last batch of leads that you guys generated. Lead about the flight, the landing, begins with the time, and you want to avoid that unless time is significant for some reason. It's not subject, verb, object. And again, 90% of the time you can use this formula and come out with a great sentence. The date and numeral here don't adhere to AP style. And also, it doesn't mention the 6 crew members who survived. I'm sure they'd like to be noted as still living. And finally, even though this is a really nice gesture, thankfully doesn't belong here. Why? Because it inserts the writer's feelings into the story, and that means the writer's in the story. And the story then is no longer objective, third-person writing. Here's another way one of you crafted this lead. And in this one, officials became the subject. That's totally okay. The officials can be the subject of the sentence. This one, I would suggest changing the word holding to something more specific, like carrying or transporting. And also, you don't really need to say around 7:30 p.m. You can just say Saturday night in this case, since that 7:30 p.m. isn't a critical issue for this story. Let's look at another lead that could use a little revision. This does the job of attributing the arson accusation, but it buries the news. Put the news first and the attribution at the end. Notice how the revised version puts definitely arson in quotes, thus reinforcing the fact that that came from someone else, that it didn't come from the writer. This rewrite also gets the news, the fire, up front, and that's where the news should be in a lead. So, another issue of Writing Doctor. Remember, whatever happens, it's all copy.